Hello everybody and welcome along. I'm David M0TPT at Martin Lynch, and you may remember this radio being launched last year, and there was a lot of hype about it, and there was a bit of a queue waiting for them to come in, and I was lucky enough to be one of the first to grab one of these units. So I've had it just over a year and a half. Now the hype's died down, and for those of you that were thinking about perhaps now investing in an FTM-500, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience with it over the last year and a bit. I hope you enjoy it. So let's get into some of the functions and features of the FTM-500. First off, we're just going to go over and look at the front here. Obviously, this is by Yaesu called the Big Head, and it is. It's got a fantastic 2.4-inch colour touchscreen display, which is a joy to use, and you can see it very, very well. It's very clear, very well laid out as well. We do have some buttons across the top here. So we've got group memory, group mode. We've got the this will change the mode that you're on. So that's where you'll press and hold to do your fusion or to do FM. We've got the little DX button there. That just engages a few more filters, which helps a lot, you know, bringing out those lower signals. So good set of filters that's brought in. We've got this button here, which has got the two arrows on it, one going up, one going down. And basically what that does is when we push it, it swaps the VFOs. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute. And then we've got our DSP. We've got our on and off button, and also our lock button, which is also very important. So we've got the traditional buttons across the top, very similar to the 891 and the 710, which makes it a lot easier to use, and they're also backlit as well, which is quite unusual. We've got PMG, we'll go into that in a little while. We've got the VFO and memory modes. On the left here, we've got a couple of knobs here. These are your volume for VFO-A and VFO-B. And also when you push them once, you can then adjust your squelch, which is quite nice. And you can do that on both. Over on the right side, we've got our function. We've got our function buttons there and our sub dial, which is for our sub band. So if you did want to get into the menus, there's two. So we've got a light menu that sits just by pushing the function button once. And this has your most common ones. It comes set default. However, from within the memory, you can decide what you'd like on here, whether you want the APRS, yeah, able to turn that off and on, or whether you want to adjust your TX power. So literally any of the menus inside the main menu, which I'll show you in a moment, can be listed here for quick access. And I like that because then I could set it up on what I wanted access to. If you press and hold, you then get access to the usual memory that we expect on radios. There's a lot of different settings that you can go in and change, depending on how you're using the radio. But there's a myriad of settings. It comes with a fantastic manual that explains each setting. So if you're unfamiliar with something, the manual will explain. I've literally scratched the surface of using this radio, to be honest. But as a 270 radio, and doing a little bit of fusion through some of the repeaters, that's generally what I use mine for. So we're going to back out of the main menu now. We just hit the back button. And then we've got our two VFOs, and they are independent VFOs. So we can receive on both simultaneously. One of the nice things about this, when I spoke about perhaps using it in the shack, is it does have two speaker outputs. So one for VFO-A and one for VFO-B. So we've got our two VFO-A, VFO-B here. If we want to swap them around, you can only TX on the top one. So whatever's up on the top there, that's the one that you'll be using if you keyed the mic. And if we want to flip them around, we can. We can hit the reverse button, and then it brings the one on the bottom to the top and moves the one from the top to the bottom. So that's how we flip which frequency we want to work on. And again, I've got this in memory mode. So if I hit the VM button, that will then put me in VFO mode. And then using this great big dial on the front, we can then select a frequency that we want to work simplex maybe. And again, I can go back to memory mode, and then I can either use the microphone. Right on the top of the microphone, we've got these buttons that allows us to go up and down the memory that are stored in your radio. Or what we can do is just use the large VFO to cycle through all of our memories. It's got a clever memory system, so when you're cycling through the bands, you can actually select on whether you see just your 270 memories, your 70 centimeter memories, or all of them. So whatever memories you stored in there, you can cycle through both, which is very, very handy. One of the biggest features that I really like is what they call PMG. And I'm going to press the PMG button now. You can monitor up to 5 different frequencies at the same time, which is simply brilliant. So this is my actual radio out of the car, as I said, and I have that set to various repeaters on my commute to ML&S in the morning. And if somebody was to talk on one of those frequencies, it would tell me, and it would instantly switch to that frequency, and then I could hear what's being said. So whether it was a repeater doing its ident, or whether it was somebody calling out. Using the microphone or the VFO, we can also cycle through, which is quite nice. And the other hidden feature is, obviously it does that automatically. It does the monitoring of those frequencies that you selected automatically. If we press and hold the large VFO, it goes into manual mode. So perhaps you've got a QSO going on a repeater, and you don't want to be interrupted by any others, because if we were talking to somebody on the main frequency and somebody else pops up on one of the other frequencies that I monitor, that would also come through on this bottom section. So you'd hear both, even though I'm having a QSO on the top. So sometimes pressing and holding the VFO will stop that from happening. So although you'll see the different frequencies spike when somebody's on there or a repeater's identing, it won't interfere with the QSO that you've got happening at that particular time. So that is a feature that I absolutely love. I use all the time. It's also a radio that I take out portable, so I will, or mobile, stroke mobile. And this is the one that I used on the 145 Alive activations. Works seamlessly well. And that brings me on to the next little secret that it's got, which is the speaker. So this is what we call an AESS unit, which means we can manipulate the audio that's coming from both the radio's bass speaker, and you can see at the bottom here there's a little opening aperture there. There's 2 speakers in there, and you can control which one is the loudest, or you can merge them, or you can use the AESS, which is delaying, to give you almost like a surround type feeling. But what I like, and we'll see this in a little while when we go and have a look at how this is mounted in the car, is that is forward facing. So I use mine, I have the unit underneath the seat, and then I have a control cable that goes up to where my head unit is on the dash. But that speaker is facing me. And it's quite an old car, so it's a little bit noisy, a little bit of wind noise, but I can hear everything that's happening on the bands as I'm going along. I don't touch the radio while I'm driving or anything like that. I have the microphone, everything's controlled from the microphone, but I can hear really, really well. You can manipulate that audio. As I said, this is AESS. You can manipulate the audio by pressing and holding the first volume button there for VFOA. And then within here, you've got lots and lots of different settings on what volume. You've got a graphic equalizer. So within here, we can change how we want to hear the audio that's coming out of those speakers. And you can also change the delay, which gives you that surround type feeling when you're listening to the audio itself. So if we just, another thing to consider, I certainly did when I bought it, was if you remember the FTM-500, the microphone used to be on the inside, and I think I've got one that we've taken apart here. There we go. So this is the base of the FTM-500, and we've got two connections. We've got one is the control cable, and the other one is for the microphone. But the great thing about the head unit on the FTM-500 is we've got a microphone jack right on the end. So we can plug our microphone directly into the head unit, and we don't need to run an extra cable back to wherever we've secured the base unit. And that was one feature that a lot of users asked for, and Yaesu listened and popped that in there. While I've got the head unit, I'll also show you how the mounting bracket works. And this is the standard. This is what it comes with. You've got a couple of securing screws, both sides there. And what that allows you to do, if you slacken them off, you can actually adjust the angle of the head when it's secured to the base. So if you are using it in the shack and you're not separating the base, that can be tilted up slightly. So you can see the head unit quite clearly, which I think is a really cool feature. The other thing you can do, if you've got it in the shack and it's not quite enough, is we have the adjustable head unit. So that just works on the normal ball and socket, but it gives you a lot more movement to be able to manipulate the head than the adjustment that comes standard on the actual radio. So it just gives you those options just to get it into the right position that you want it in when you're using it in the shack or got it mounted in the car, because the mount on the head unit on the back, we've got a little screw that goes in there, and that will secure it to your mounting bracket. This is the one that I use in the car, and it comes with the screw. So it comes with everything, and the sticky pads, everything you need to be able to get the head unit secured in your car, so it's not going to be floating around while you're driving. Okay, and another thing that I love, although I don't use it, it's going to be very handy for people that do like to mount the base unit in the car somewhere and keep the head on it, is this quick release bracket that comes with the unit itself. It is so easy. We've got a little tab there, and then we push that down and this slides off. And that locates in this groove. It's got an aperture there, so it's very easy to find, very easy to slot back in. So if you did want to remove it from the car of an evening, or maybe you've got two cars and you want to use it in both, you can. It works really, really well. Slides on and off beautifully. If we look on the back here, we've got the SO239 for the antenna. We've got a fan which doesn't run all the time, so it's not noisy in any way. Mine's underneath the seat and I've never heard it. Then we've got the power connection for our 12 volts. And then here, this is what I spoke about earlier with the speakers. So we've got VFO-A and VFO-B, and we've also got a data jack there for some of your data modes. So it's very well featured on the back here with the two speakers, VFO-A, VFO-B. You got the data modes, nice little fan, and then your 12-volt supply. Next, we're going to have a little look at the screen of the FTM-500 and its band scope. So what we're going to do, we're going to change the band. We get that on 2 meters, and we want to go in VFO mode. There we go. So we've got this band scope at the bottom, and it works exceptionally well. You know, if you're seeing anything on the band, obviously you can spin the dial to that place, or if we've got something, we can press and hold, and it'll take us directly to that spot. So press and hold the display and it will take you to what you're seeing on the band scope without having to do anything. So quite handy when you're got this fitted in a shack. You can just point at it and it will go to the frequencies that you're seeing, which is really, really handy. If you want to cycle through the bands, that's easy. Band button at the bottom, and that will cycle through. And one of the good things is obviously we can listen to the airband, because I know that's very popular, being able to listen to the airbands, and you can do that on this this little rig here. And I don't know whether you can see, this is a cool little feature. Right on the top we've got a little light, and that little light basically denotes where you are. So at the moment we're in VFO mode. So when we switch to memory mode, it goes red. And then when we're in, when we're in PMG mode, it goes orange. It's just another indicator. Once you know what the different colors mean, it's just something else that can catch your eye, and you know exactly where you are and where you've set the radio. And again, it's just a nice little feature along with the backlit buttons that just really works. You've got the SD card that goes into the side, which is pretty standard. So you can program that using the free software, which you can find on the Yaesu website under downloads. The other thing that I wanted to mention, because when I go mobile, I haven't wired the 500 into the battery system of the car. I decided not to, and I just run off LifePo for batteries. Works really well for me, and it lasts such a long time, because obviously I'm not talking on it all the time. You know, I do a little bit of listening, but when I do it, it works absolutely fine. So on 145 Alive, I think this is a 30 amp hour, eco-worthy, and this lasted me the 2 hours that we did 145 Alive, running at about 50 watts. No problem at all. And I like the LifePo 4s. You can use a lot more of its charge. I think somebody mentioned to me you can use up to 90% of the charge, whereas with the lead acid, you know, we're probably only looking at about 45-50%. Also got the leads on the top. They go straight onto the battery, and you've got the 2 power poles on the top there, which will connect to your Yaesu power lead if you pop a couple more power poles onto your lead. So it's easy to get in and out of the car. And I find that best, especially if we're going on a journey with family. I can then remove said battery, and I don't get in too much trouble. Okay, well, we've covered just some of the features and benefits of the FTM-500. What we're going to do now, we're going to head out to my car, and you can see exactly how I've set it up in my car. And yeah, let's go out there now. So here we are in my little car. This is a typical kind of setup. I have the head unit separated from the main body. I've got the control cable, just a single control cable. I've got the microphone plugged into the base unit there, so that's easy for me to get. Sometimes when I'm doing portable, I'll have it plugged into the head unit, because I may have sort of like a platform here where I'll have all my logbook and everything on my little computer that I use for login. So it's quite typical. The great thing about the head unit on the FTM-500, you could mount it anywhere. There's not much space. It's only a little car. So that was pretty much the only space that could go in, but it does give you lots and lots of options. I know people that have mounted the whole unit on their dashboard, and some that have even used sort of almost like a phone holder to hold the head unit in place. So all we've got is the control cable, and that can be tidied up. I haven't done that, but you could tidy that up. And then all we need is the microphone. And again, we can do everything we need to do with the microphone. We can even pre-program it with the features that we want, using the P numbers at the bottom there. And then right on the top, we've got the all-important up and down buttons. And as we press these, you'll hear the radio in the background. So that allows me to cycle through any of my pre-programmed repeaters. If I was calling out on 2 meters, for instance, I could then cycle up to the frequency that we've agreed to go and move to if it's clear. So don't have to touch the unit at all. Everything can be done by the microphone. And obviously you've got that lovely PMG functionality that you can use just to monitor your favorite stations on a journey, for instance. Okay, so that's the setup in my car. Let's go back into the shop. So after the initial excitement of the FTM-500 being launched last year, I was one of the ones that got their radio from the first delivery that Martin Lynch had. And after using it all this time and the hype's died down, is it still worth investing in an FTM-500? Well, I won't be parting with mine, and I've really enjoyed it. It's changed the way I work mobile. I love using it. The ergonomics are great. All of the extra features, the PMG, where the microphone plugs into, and I've really enjoyed using it. So if you've got one and you've been using it, then why not in the comments tell us what you love about the units. Maybe it's something that we missed, because there is a lot more to the radio than what we've covered off there. So that's it for this week. Thanks very much for tuning in, and just remember, we've got lots more videos planned. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. But that's everything from me this week. So that's Mike 0 Tango Papa Tango from ML&S, wishing you a good week and 73.